Hello, and welcome to our presentation of our Comp4303 StartCraft AI bot project. My name is Thomas Sheppard, and my partner is Nhu Nguyen, who will be joining us later on in the video to explain certain aspects of the project. Our project was based around the idea of using a build which incorporated the M&M, or Marines and Medics strategy, commonly used on the Big Game Hunters map. As such, our work expanded to include certain strategies used on that map, specifically ones which started off with Marines and Medics, and then tech up as the game progresses. This project was interesting, as it was our first foray into the game of StarCraft, and we were both very interested in the Terran units, especially the starting units, the Marines, which are the only base combat units to have a ranged attack and are capable of attacking flying units. As such, we wanted to build something based around these units. From there, we learned of the medics and how the two units are used in BGH builds. Both my partner and I spent a great deal of time on this project. There are no specific examples of our own individual work that come to mind, as we both passed the work back and forth quite a bit. For example, the attack function we used in our bot. One of us wrote the initial function, then the other worked on it for a bit, improving it and ironing out some of the issues. Then it was passed back to the other member, and things worked like this for the entire project, with one member starting work on some aspect of the bot, then handing off the work to the other member so that we could both work on the project as our schedules allowed. We kept in touch throughout the process, having weekly meetings and additional ad hoc meetings, and we both contributed a lot of time and effort to this endeavor. Now I will hand you off to my partner so that she can go more into depth with certain aspects of the project.
Hi, my name is Nhu Nguyen, and I will be handling problem description and methodology for this presentation. For our goal, we want to create a Terran bot to fight against the built-in StarCraft bot using a good general-purpose strategy and combat units including Marines, Medics, tanks, etc. All the sub-problems that we need to solve in order to accomplish our goal are make scout, locate enemy base, mark choke point and bunker position on the map when the game starts, then build buildings, train combat units and defend base. After that, send units to attack and search for new enemy buildings. Methodology. This is an overview of the methods we have used to solve problem. Our build order first starts with using number of supplies to decide when to do things, including sending out a scout, training new workers, and build buildings. Then later on, we'll switch to tracking which buildings have already been built to give out next orders, such as training combat units and adding new upgrades. In order to find the enemy base, we move the scout to all start locations on the map and scout the surrounding tiles of each location until it finds an enemy. Then, to mark the choke point and bunker position, we would use the scout when it is on its way back to the player base. We assign the builder role to some workers and use them to build buildings, so we can build many things at the same time. We use barracks and factories to train combat units and gather them at choke point, so we have better defense and better formation. We build bunker at the bunker position to defend base, then send out combat units to the enemy base in waves once there are enough troops. After that, we will start searching for new enemy buildings once all in sight are destroyed. This is the pseudocode for some of our methods. For the attack function, firstly, we would initialize random seed for later use. Then we would get all player units and go through each of them. We would check if this is a combat unit? If it is, then we would check the distance between that unit and the player base. If it is less than 1,000, then it means the unit is at the player base. If this is the case, if med counter is larger than attack count, then it means there are enough troops for an attack wave. So we would send the unit to attack the enemy base. Else, if the unit is outside player base, which means its distance is larger than 1,000, and the unit is idle, then we would check the enemy building array. This array keeps track of all recorded enemy buildings on the map that has been shown before. If this array is not empty, then we would send the unit to attack the first one on the list. Else, if there is no enemy buildings in sight, then we will start searching for a new one by generating random coordinates within 1500 radius of the enemy base. X and Y will be the random coordinates, and we would add that to the enemy base position in order to get the new position. And we would order the unit to attack this new position, so it will scout around and attack anything on its way. Now, if the map counter is larger or equal to the attack count, then it means a new wave has been sent. In this case, we would check if attack wave is less than 2. This means that it is the first 2 attack wave, and this is only for Marines to be trained. If this is the case, we should increment attack wave. If it is not the first 2 attack waves, then we would check the attack count. This is the number of troops that will be sent on for each waves. If it is less than 35, then we would increase the attack count for every wave after that by 5. Finally, we would reset the count for the next wave. For the scout position, firstly, we would check if enemy found equals to false. This means the enemy base has not been located yet. We would get the closest unit to the scout and check if the unit is an enemy. If it is, then it means the position of the scout's last command should be the enemy base, so we will set it to that, and we will set enemy found to true and move the scout back to player base. In order to send the scout around the map, first we would get all the start locations and go through each location. One of the problems we had with scouting early on was that sometimes the scout would miss the enemy, maybe because there were some obstacle on the way, or maybe it wasn't scouting far enough. And our workaround for that issue was that adding all of the surrounding tiles of each position to an array by doing this, and go through each tile in that array. If the tile is not explored yet, we would move the scout to the new tile. And by doing this, we make sure that each start location is scouted properly so that we would never miss an enemy. Now, once the enemy has been found and the scout is going back to the player base, we would check if the choke point is equal to player base. This means that the choke point has not been set yet. If this is the case, we would get the distance between the scout and the player base. If the distance is less than 650, then we would set the choke point position at the scout position. And we would do the same thing for the bunker position when the scout is 700 away from the base. All of our code are located in the starterbot.cpp file. The onFrame function contains our entire build order. After that, we have the send idle workers to minerals and send idle workers to refineries. This is our attack function. And this is our function to train units in barracks, our function to train units in factories. This is our scout function. And this is our function to build a given type of building. After that, this is some helper functions. And the rest of the code is also inside this file. This is the list of things that we have tried to do but didn't end up working in time. An enemy detector for player base. Initially, I created a function to detect enemy unit or entering player base. This should trigger an alert, and all combat units inside player base should go to the enemy and defend the base. Unfortunately, this wasn't working properly, and we were running out of time, so I had to remove it completely. We also wanted to have the workers repairing constructions once they are damaged, as well as having better enemy search, since right now combat units are getting sent to random locations on the map when they need to find new enemy buildings. We also wanted to have better attack formation to increase the bot's efficiency. And unfortunately, none of this were done in time.
Now that we have gone over the particulars of our code and methods, let's see the bot in action. See here how our bot has built a bunker in a really good position. Our bot is primarily focused on an aggressive attack strategy, with little thought to defense, but it does still contribute some resources and units to base defense, which aids in repelling enemy attacks. As mentioned in the introduction, we wanted to work with Marines and medics. As you can see here, our bot initially produces Marines and medics in the early game. With the attack wave strategy we have set up, the first few attacks consist of solely Marines and medics, the intent being to take advantage of the Marines' superior range over the other races' base units, and their lack of healing units. The first upgrade purchased by our bot at the Academy is the Catechist Reactor upgrade, a good general purpose upgrade to increase the efficacy of our medics, as part of our focus is on that particular unit. Now, we followed some recommended guides for big game hunter builds and teched towards siege tanks, which in this particular case has proven to be rather effective. We also have our bot producing vultures when we do not have enough Vespene gas to produce siege tanks to help keep unit production up and fill out our ranks. Our attack function also has our combat units seeking out the enemy structures, recording their location, and removing them once they have been destroyed. After watching numerous games and recording their results, 100 in total, I feel confident in saying that our bot plays at around the level of a novice. Out of 100 games, it won 19 times, giving it a win-loss ratio of 19/81, or 0.24. One of our bot's strong points is that it works rather well against certain expansion builds, an aspect which can be further improved through things such as more effective troop planning and better troop movements so that our combat units can more effectively attack the enemy. Some of our bot's weak points include that it is very vulnerable to an early Zerg rush. It is less vulnerable to an early Zealot rush, but can still be overcome in such a situation. One way of handling this issue would be to have our units which are not on attack move to defend the base should it come under attack. Also, our base has no detection defenses, meaning that if the enemy gets their hand on cloaked units, our bot is virtually defenseless against them. One way of fixing this issue would be to incorporate missile launchers into our defenses for their detection. So, to wrap this up, our bot is an implementation of a BGH build which uses Marines and medics in the early game, with an emphasis on increasing the utility of the medics, and uses more advanced troops after the game has reached a certain point. Given that, I believe our project is successful. Though there are aspects we would improve upon given more time, we covered the points we wished to cover, and managed to create a bot which plays on the level of a novice, which is fitting considering that both my partner and I are novices in StarCraft. There are a number of things which my partner and I would try to improve upon if we had more time. For one, we would refine the attack function so that it would keep our units moving as a group instead of a single file line. Another example would be that we would have liked to have made something so that our bot can recognize when our structures or buildings are damaged and then assign a worker to fix them. Further improvements would then be planned out as we finished those projects and as we researched more about how to play StarCraft. This concludes our presentation for our Comp4303 StarCraft AI bot project. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed our presentation.